You want to know why Trump is president again? Because while Democrats are throwing tantrums, the Republicans out here making sense and making America great again. Let's get right to the video.
What happens in the next 3 hours and also the days ahead could depend in large part on my first source tonight, the Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. And thank you so much for being here. Mr. Speaker, do you believe the government's going to shut down in 3 hours from now?
I think it is inevitable now. It's a very reckless decision that Chuck Schumer has made. The Democrats have taken the last vote. Within the last few hours, they voted it down once again. And so there's no other option. Now, it's important to
I think reckless, I'm sorry to pause the video so early, but I think reckless is the wrong word because it seems to me that the Democrats will rather burn down the whole entire house rather than let Trump win another round. Rather than let Trump win another round. They're screwing Americans just because they don't like Trump that much. Man, that has to suck. Let's keep going, guys.
know what they're doing here. They're throwing a fit. They're making partisan arguments. The House did its job. We sent to the Senate a clean CR. What that means, it's a very short stopgap funding measure so that the appropriators in Congress in both parties can continue their work of doing the appropriations bills, 12 separate bills. We've made a lot of progress in that. We just need a little more time because tonight is the end of the fiscal year. Chuck Schumer has refused to give the extra time. Why? Because we won't agree to restore health care to illegal aliens, because we won't agree to give $500 million back to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. He wants to cut the big fund of $50 billion that we set aside to support and prop up rural hospitals in America, because we won't agree to those partisan demands. And $1.5 trillion in new spending on a 7-week stopgap funding measure. He's decided to shut the government down. It's real pain for real Americans, and it's so frustrating.
I heard you make that first point at the White House yesterday after the meeting y'all had with the president and with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. People, as you know, people who are here in the United States legally have never been eligible for the Obamacare subsidies, for Medicare, for Medicaid. So what exactly are you saying that they're trying to do when you talk about giving free health care to them?
I'm so glad you asked. Okay, so when we passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, we had Medicaid reforms in the bill. You and I talked about it on the air. What we did was to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. There were a lot of people on the program who were enrolled in the program who were never eligible to be there. Medicaid is intended for eligible U.S. citizens, not illegal aliens, not also U.S. citizens who are able-bodied workers, like young men. So we passed the law. The president signed it into law. Democrats voted against it, of course. And it's been wildly successful. The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, which is the neutral arbiter of all these things, released a report a few weeks ago, earlier this month, and they said, you know what? The bill has had its intended purpose. Premiums are coming down, listen, because 2.3 million ineligible enrollees have been kicked off of Medicaid, which helps to save the program, prop it up. And $185 billion has been saved already in fraud, waste, and abuse.
What you did was narrow the eligibility for certain people to get access to the ACA subsidies. What they want to do is undo the changes that Republicans made in that. But basically, wouldn't that only affect people who do have legal status, people who are refugee seekers here in the United States, asylum seekers here?
Those are two totally different issues. Now, they've created this as a new argument that they have as to why they should not keep the government open, but they're arguing a December policy debate for a September funding issue. The subsidies that you're talking about don't expire until the end of December.
No. Those are the subsidies for just everyday Americans. That's one thing that obviously has been the main premise of their argument. But you're saying they want to give free health care to people who are in the United States illegally.
That is exactly what.
I don't like Caitlin Collins. She's just not listening to anything this guy's saying, right? He's calling it out for what it is. This is the hill that they're willing to die on. Free healthcare for illegal aliens while our veterans can't even get appointments. And this is the clown world that obviously Caitlin Collins wants us to live in.
The effect will be.
But when I looked at it, there's a little nuance because they want to undo changes that y'all made, narrowing who is eligible to get that. Those are people who are refugee seekers, asylum seekers. They're not technically people who are here illegally, just cross the border.
No, this is exactly what will happen. And Maxine Waters admitted, I think, accidentally today on the House steps, they want to give health care to everybody.
But Maxine Waters is not in charge. She's not the one. She didn't write this proposal.
She's one of the senior leaders in the House. And everybody should Google it and read their counter proposal yourself.
But you see my point, right? You're making this argument that they want to just give health care to everyone who's here illegally. This is not for people who cross the border and don't have paperwork. These are people who have temporary.
No, that's not what it is. He didn't accidentally do it, right? He said the quiet part out loud. That's their plan. Everybody gets free healthcare except the ones paying for it. Us. But Caitlin Collins is trying to let all this information go in one ear and out the other. This person is so schemy.
Temporary protected status,
No,
right?
absolutely what will happen if that counterproposal was enacted is illegal aliens would be paid for. American taxpayers, hard-earned dollars, would be paying for benefits for illegal aliens again. We're not doing that.
But it's against federal law for people who are here illegally to get
yes, and that's
healthcare.
why our reforms are so important to enforce all that. What the important thing to remember is what's happening
I didn't see that in the
tonight.
Democratic proposal that people who are here illegally
No,
should get
because they
healthcare.
don't have the level of specification that we had in our bill. It will unwind that, and all those things that the CBO just verified will be reversed. We can't afford to do that.
But you
The
see my
program
point,
has
that there's
no, I
nuance
don't
in
see
the
your
argument
point.
that you're
No.
making, right?
No, that is a red herring in this debate. What they've decided to do tonight with their vote is to close the government. And what that means, everybody needs to understand, real pain for real Americans. What does that mean? It means women, infants, and children do not get their nutrition programs. That is not funded anymore. Veterans don't get their health care services, suicide prevention, and other very important things that are very timely. You have low-income persons who are Medicaid, Medicare recipients who are receiving care at home. Those programs are now lapsed. They will not be funded.
Yeah, you're
You got
making a
troops
point about
not
what
paid,
happens if the
TSA
government
agents
shuts
not-
shuts
That's
down.
right, and they just decided to do it. So the only question tonight is, how long will Chuck Schumer keep the government closed? It's a dangerous gambit. It's something that he himself said his entire political career would be dangerous and disastrous. Roll the tape. We're rolling the greatest hits on our social media.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the point about giving people who are here illegally health care is not exactly what is in their proposal.
It is 100% what their
immigrants
proposal.
who have legal status, and
No,
you're just
Caitlin, you're
disagreeing
wrong.
on who's eligible.
No,
I
I'm
looked
not.
at it, actually, because I was curious about your argument yesterday.
You should study the CBO's analysis that they just put out a few weeks
Yeah,
ago.
I saw
and
that about the 1.2 million people. You're basically arguing about who has legal status, people who are seeking refuge here or
I'm
seeking
not.
asylum.
No, I'm making sure that we are making sure in our provisions that we sign into law have ensured that health care benefits go only to eligible U.S. citizens.
Right,
Chuck
as
Schumer's
is federal
proposal.
law.
Federal law was not being enforced. That's the whole point. We had to fine-tune that so that we could strengthen the health care program. That's what we did.
On this premise of how long this shutdown could go on, the longest one was 35 days. You were a member then, you were not the House Speaker then. How long do you believe this could go on?
I hope it's very short because real Americans are going to suffer. It's going to be a hardship for a lot of people. And Chuck Schumer holds all the cards because all he has to do is do what he's done, by the way, 13 times during the previous 4 years of the Biden administration. 13 times we avoided a shutdown. We were in the minority party many of those times. We voted and did the responsible right thing to keep the government open. We're asking Chuck Schumer to do the same thing he did his entire career. He's been here half my life. This is the first time ever he's wanted to shut it down, and I'll tell you why. Because Chuck Schumer is in a political fight. He's fighting for his.
Why do you think Chuck Schumer wants to shut the government down? I think it's one of those things where these people have lost so many times and so bad to Trump that they're willing to cut off their own hand to win the game. They're willing to cut off their own hand to win the game, and they're stooping to such a low level. They're showing us who they really are. And trying to tell you, this is not leadership. These people need to be snatched away from their positions.
His political life. The last time he did the responsible thing, the far left came after him. AOC is going to challenge him.
Yeah, he was criticized by a lot of his own members. Yeah. You're talking about how painful a government shutdown today could be. Today, the president said that he thinks some good things could come from a government shutdown. What are the good things that would come from a shutdown?
Well, the administration has to make some very tough choices. They have to determine at the Office of Management and Budget what are essential services, what are the programs that should be prioritized, personnel decisions, policy decisions. Chuck Schumer has just given the White House unilateral authority to make those permanent decisions about programs that should survive and those that should be eliminated. So he's sort of walked into a political trap on that as well.
The president framed it as a good thing that could come out of this. You're saying it's a tough choice. That's not how he described it.
No, it's both.
Today.
There are good things that could come out of it. If you eliminate wasteful programs that we otherwise would not get Democrat votes to do, that's a very good thing for the taxpayers. But the harm that comes is from the people who need food assistance, medical assistance. FEMA won't be funded, by the way. We're in the middle of our hurricane season. If your health insurance or your flood insurance is lapsed, no new policies, no renewals, none of that can happen during a shutdown. It's real danger for real people. This is not a game.
Yeah, well, the president has previously talked about eliminating FEMA potentially before this shutdown happened. But can I ask you in terms of...
He wants to reform FEMA.
You're talking about the president could pick programs that they would basically stop, right, if this shutdown commences. Has a president ever, during a government shutdown, eliminated programs just because there was a government shutdown?
I'd have to go study the history of it, but I'll tell you that government's never been so big and bloated as it is today. It's completely it's too large. It does too many things, and it does almost nothing well. There's a lot of reform-minded people in the administration who would like to streamline government. So would conservatives. So would all of us. Not in a way that disenfranchises or hurts anybody, but in a way that makes government work more efficiently and effectively for the people. That's what our legislation has done. That's what the big beautiful bill was about, and we'd love to continue that theme. And if Chuck Schumer wants to keep the government shut down and give the White House full authority to do that, some good things may come out of that, indeed.
As a constitutional lawyer, do you think you would be okay if a government shutdown happened under President Biden and he canceled programs unilaterally because of it?
We didn't allow that to happen because I'm more responsible than that. When the Republicans were in the minority, we delivered the votes to keep the government open because we don't want to hurt the American people. Chuck Schumer has made the decision unilaterally. He's the leader of the Democrats in the Senate to keep the government shut down for his own personal reasons. It is extremely selfish and stunning to me that he is willing to do that. There's no way out of the trap. We didn't put partisan provisions in the CR. We could have. I could have loaded that up with all of our partisan policy preferences, but I didn't because we're operating in good faith. The reason we need, again, just the short-term extension to November 21st is to allow the appropriators to do their job. They need more time to do it in a bipartisan fashion, by the way. They agreed, Republicans and Democrats agreed, November 21st would be the appropriate date to extend it. That's all we're.
The Democrats don't want a solution anymore. I don't know if they can make it any more obvious. They want chaos, but Americans aren't buying it anymore. That's why everybody's speaking out. A lot of people are voting against these people. Let me know what you guys think about this quick video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're new. And as always, let me know what you react to. Out.